In this video, I want to try to help you learn how to control stress better, stress eating, emotional eating, all these things that can be such a challenge, and they kind of come together. Like, I'm not even sure how I'm going to title this video yet, whether it's about stress or stress eating, but let's be honest, if you control stress better, it's only logical you'll do better with stress eating too. However, it's also good to look at it as separate things, because even if you can control stress better, you don't really want to go down the path of stress eating, even if it's more rare. But before I get into it, I want to stress, I am not a therapist. I am not someone who specializes in the mental well-being and things like that. But what I can do is talk about some things, not only from my own personal experience, but what I've seen in a lot of clients. I've been doing this for almost 8 years now, hundreds of people. I see things that oftentimes work. So I just want to give you some strategies that could help. But if you really struggle with this, please get professional help. This is important not just only for your mental well-being, for your happiness, but also any results you're looking to get fitness related, weight loss related. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have on exercise and nutrition if you can't get out of your own head, if you keep making decisions based on your emotions and you're letting stress get to you and you keep going way off plan because of what's happening in your life. None of that stuff matters. Honestly, I truly believe this. I bet about 80% of this game is mental. Like, there's so many ways you can do this stuff, the physical stuff, how to go about your eating and nutrition, different forms of exercise. There's tons of ways to do this. It's not finding the right plan for you. It's about managing this up here and learning how to be able to stick with things instead of letting emotions take over. But please keep in mind, before we get into it here, it's not gonna happen overnight. You need to give yourself grace and give yourself time, especially if you've been doing this for like years upon years or even decades, right? You're not gonna just erase decades worth of thought processes and behaviors and just flip like you're flipping a light switch and then just all of a sudden everything's going to be different. No, you're going to have plenty of setbacks. You're going to revert. Even when you get better, you're going to have times where you slip up. But if you keep doing it and keep practicing it, it's all about repetition. The more you do it, the better you get at it, the easier it becomes, and it's going to be less and less frequent. So talk to yourself the way you would talk to a friend or a loved one when you do have these mistakes and you do revert back. Don't beat yourself up or feel bad or call yourself names. What would you tell your friend who went through the same thing? If this person made the mistake that you made and came to you feeling bad about it, what would you say to them? You wouldn't say, you're just weak and you should just give up because it's hopeless and you're just pathetic. Of course you wouldn't do that. So don't do that to yourself either. So here's kind of the big thing about stress to me. And when you first hear this, you may think, that's almost kind of insulting a little bit. Trust me, it's not, or I certainly don't mean it to be. And I'm saying it as a way to truly help. And that is that, honestly, I don't really even feel like stressful situations in life even happen. Like, I don't think there's things as outside stressors. It's not what happens in your life that determines the amount of stress you have in your life. It's how you react to the things that happen in your life that determines your stress. It's not what happens to you, it's about what you believe about what happens to you. It's why you can take two people in the exact same circumstances and one person will handle it fine and the other person will stress to the max. And while maybe there's some arguments like, hey, maybe it's just genetic, it's something in their DNA, this is the way they're hardwired, maybe it's more about life circumstances, upbringing, things like that. I think that probably has more to do with it than just like DNA hardwiring kind of a thing. I feel like a lot of the things that we hold on to as adults are things that we learned through childhood. And again, not a therapist here. If this is something that you struggle with, talk to somebody. But it doesn't just mean that you're like doomed to be this way either. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So first, before I get into talking more about how to handle stress eating itself, let me give you my number one strategy for handling stressful situations in life and not stressing out so much. And this is something that has really tremendously benefited myself over the years. This is something I implemented and it's really helped. And it's something that I've seen work for a lot of other people as well. But whenever you start feeling really stressed, really anxious, you get in these situations where you feel like you're getting out of control, stop, slow down, take a deep breath, and say this to yourself. Okay, what am I going to do about it? This to me is pretty much one of the biggest keys to handling stress and being less stressed in life. It's focusing on what you have control over. Because let's be honest, most of the stuff that happens to us that's stressful, most of the things that are bad in our life, the things that get us down and get us frustrated and get us worked up and anxious, they're almost all things that you have no control over. And doing this will help your emotional well-being so much because you can't control what's going to happen to you in your life, but you have control over how you decide to react to the things that happen in your life. And again, you may be more anxious in general, you may worry a lot more than most people, but that doesn't mean you can't make improvements. And taking this strategy to talk to yourself and say, okay, what can I do about it? And then focus on that is key. And you might have to say this out loud to yourself. This is usually one of the big strategies I talk about when people do emotionally eat, stress eat, is to say it out loud. And that's because when you say it out loud, now it becomes real. It becomes logic. Whereas if it's in your head, it's all emotions. Everything up here is emotions. And when you make decisions based on emotions, it's basically never the right thing, right? Like it's just not logical. And when you get it out, now it becomes logic, it becomes real, and it just kind of snaps you out of this mental state. It's kind of like you're being festered and just poisoned over and over. And the more you keep it inside, the more it poisons you. It just takes over, makes it worse all the time until you finally get it out. And then you feel so much better just talking about it. And the thing with focusing on what you have control over, if you get worked up about things that you don't have control over and get stressed out about it, it's actually only going to make everything even worse. Now, like I said, this is something that I've implemented myself. I want to talk about a situation in my life that happened actually just this year or about a half a year ago or so. And I'll put a timestamp if you want to skip past my story here. I know this video is going to be long. I'm okay with it. I have a lot to say. I'm here to help people who need the help, and the people who really need the help are going to be the ones that will watch all the way through. So if you're still here and stick around to the end, then this is for you. But if you don't care, I'll put a timestamp, you can skip it. So anyways, my family and I went to Switzerland over the summer. Had a blast. It was an amazing trip, time of our lives. But coming home, we had a difficult situation. We had to catch a connecting flight from Geneva to Frankfurt, Germany, and then from Germany back to the US. Well, there was some issues with our boarding passes, and we couldn't get our boarding passes to the connecting flight to the flight home out of Geneva. She said there was an issue. She goes, oh, well, it's a different airline. So because it's a different airline, I can't print you your boarding pass. You'll have to get it at the gate when you get to the airport. And we go, oh, okay, well, whatever, no big deal. So we get there. We had about an hour and a half between flights, so there was plenty of time to get there. So we get off the plane, we walk through the airport. We get to the spot where it says, okay, the gate that we're needed to go through is through here. But what is there? Security. And you can't get into security without a boarding pass. So we're supposed to get our boarding passes from the gate, but we can't get to the gate because we don't have boarding passes. So we're like, oh crap. So now like we just book it back, right? Just trying to, we don't even know where to go. We're just trying to figure this out. We're just flying around the airport. And by the time we finally find the right place and get there, they basically said it's too late now. Even if we were to give you your boarding passes, there's no way you're going to make it all the way through security and to the gates. Basically, you miss your flight, you're screwed, right? So now, okay, stress and anxiety, right? Like crap. We are stuck in Germany, in a country where we don't know the language and we have nowhere to stay. We don't know if we're going to get another flight. We don't know if we're going to have to pay for the flight because they might think it's our fault because there was no delays or anything like that. We might have to pay for hotels. We don't know how long it's going to take. We were kind of looking online, trying to figure out, okay, if we get a flight home tomorrow because there was no more for that day, how much is it going to cost? It was going to cost like $5 or $6 grand if we had to pay out of pocket for ourselves to get there. So at first, oh my gosh, like, you know, blood's boiling. I'm starting to freak out a little bit. And they say, you got to go to this line. We get to the line. It's like wrapped around the airport like 150 times. I'm exaggerating, but it was a huge line. It was probably going to take forever. It ended up taking literally several hours to get through this line. And then we had to go do another line after that because they couldn't help us there. So anyways, I was in this line and I'm just like, crap, you know, this isn't going to work. Who knows what's going to happen? We might be out thousands of dollars and I don't know what's going to happen. And I started kind of freaking out and I literally just stopped and I went, okay, use your strategy, Colin. I go, okay, what can I do about it? I didn't just say it. I said, okay, look, I'm going to try to answer this. Okay, well, all I can do right now is get in this line and see what they have to say. Everything else is out of my control. So if I'm freaking out about it, it's not going to make things better. It's going to make things worse. So okay, I got to get in this line and talk to this person and see what they have to say. Boom, I just calmed down so much and it really, really helped. Got all the way through the line, get up to the person, started talking. Oh, we can't help you. You're going to have to go up to another line up there. Wait, what can I do? Okay, get in line, right? So go up there and forever and ever. It ended up being like 6 hours or something like that. I don't remember the exact time, but it was a long time before we finally got to the person who could help us. Long story short, we had used a travel agent, and the way she had reserved our tickets or something, she totally screwed it up. They could barely even find it, and she was having a hard time even pulling the reservations. So anyways, the lady was thankfully nice to us. She goes, listen, like, this is technically not our fault. There was plenty of time, there was an issue on that end, but we will get you on this flight. We won't make you pay for a new ticket. We'll get in the flight tomorrow, but you're gonna have to pay for your own hotel because it wasn't our fault. Normally they would give you a hotel if they screwed it up, right? Well, they didn't. So, hey, like, we were fortunate to at least have that, right? So we got a hotel at the airport. We stayed there. Actually ended up having a really great night. Like, we walked around and just, tried some German beers and food, and that airport was actually pretty amazing. It was huge, had a lot of stuff to do, and actually kind of ended up creating a lot of nice memories. But so we stayed the night, got home the next day. But again, long story, but it really goes to show, like, man, if you utilize this strategy and take it seriously, it can really help. Now, had this been many, many years ago, it wouldn't have helped as much. I have done this for a long time, and I've gotten better and better and better and better at it. So don't feel like, well, if I just do this and it doesn't work great, that it's not going to work for me. Though that's not necessarily the case. It might not work as well at first, but if it even helps even just a tiniest little bit, build on that. Give it time. Like I said in the beginning, it's not going to happen overnight. So always remind yourself, if you don't have control over what's happening, it's not worth stressing out about. It's actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because now you're in control. Not the universe, not the random things that happen to you that seem unfair. You are in control of how you react to what happens, and now you have the power. You're taking that power back. Now, let's switch that to the emotional eating side of things. All right. So again, one, if you take these strategies, the urge to stress eat is probably going to be less, because you're just going to be in a better place. And definitely utilizing the strategy of talking yourself out loud can be helpful. One of the biggest tips I have in this is, if you find yourself in a position where you are stress eating, if you find that you're binging or feeling the urge to do so, even not doing it yet, stop and ask yourself out loud, am I eating because I'm hungry? Or am I eating because I'm stressed or I'm emotional about something? And be honest with yourself. And a lot of times that can snap you out of it. But if you really think about, like, why you typically stress eat, well, it's a coping mechanism, right? Like, you don't like the way you're feeling. Because you don't like the way you're feeling, you want to do something to help yourself feel better. So by turning to food, you do something that momentarily will help you feel better. Of course, it doesn't last. It's a very short period of time. You usually end up feeling even worse for doing it afterwards, and it's just not really going to help. Now, some people will say turn to other things to cope that are more healthy, instead of turning to food. Go get a great workout in and, take out some of the frustration on the weights or something like that. And while, okay, yeah, you can make the argument that that's probably a better strategy for at least some, that can be taken to the extreme too, in an unhealthy way. Like, if you're working out every single day for hours on end and beating yourself into a bloody pulp because you're trying to help with stress, not really a good thing, not helping, and that can be even damaging. So to me, what's a better strategy is accepting that, you know what? You don't have to feel good all the time. You aren't going to feel good all the time. Accept that, hey, bad things are going to happen in life. You can be okay with, this happened, I don't like it, but that doesn't mean I have to do something to try to make myself feel better right now. By all means, feel your feelings. Your feelings are real because you're feeling them. But remember that pretty much every feeling you have is triggered by thoughts. And let's be honest, most of the time our thoughts aren't even true. So have your moment. Feel your feelings, get angry, get frustrated, get whatever you might feel in the moment, but then turn to, okay, what can I do about it? And then focus on that. If there's nothing you can do about it, then you just got to accept it and just realize, here's what I'm going to have to do to, manage this the best I can. If it is something that you can do something about, well, then by God, do that, right? And don't wish that things were different. Accepting reality is so important. If you fight reality, you're going to lose. Reality in the history of time is never lost. So don't fight it, accept it, work with it, and you'll be in such a better place. Like I said before, almost all the time when things are happening in our life that are, stressful or that make us not feel so great, it's usually things that are out of our control. And it can be so easy to say, well, I need to stop working out. I need to stop paying attention to my nutrition because I've got too much going on. It's too much to handle. I need to take something off my plate. And while sometimes that can be good. You have to remind yourself that this is a very temporary thing. You can't just only do stuff when you feel great, right? Otherwise, you're just going to always be on and off, on and off, on and off. But sometimes a small break can be helpful. A lot of times, though, it actually just is the start of a full-on quitting. And while it may not be easy in the moment, a lot of times sticking with your plan, getting your workouts in, hitting your nutrition, if for no other reason, it can help you feel better because, hey, that's something you have control over. This bad stuff that's happening, you don't have control over, but you have control over your exercise. You have control over what you eat. And what happens is now you feel like you have some form of control. That feels good. It always feels good to do the thing you know you should, but don't feel like doing. That builds wins, that builds momentum, that gives you some motivation. I always say you can't rely on motivation, but it sure is nice when it's there, and that can carry over into other areas of your life. So even though it's more challenging, there's something good coming from it. And remember, pretty much everything in life worth having is going to be difficult. In fact, I do argue the more challenging it is, the harder the situation, but you go through it and do it anyways, the more it positively impacts your life. And perhaps most importantly, do not convince yourself that you just are the way you are. This is how I've always been. This is the way I've always done things. So it's just who I am and how I do things. That right there is you literally using yourself as an excuse. You're giving yourself a reason to not change and not to do it. And you're convincing yourself it's just, like I said, like your DNA. It's just who you are as a person, and that's crap. And not only is that crap, but it's actually like you're actually identifying as this. And that's why it's so hard to change. Like even when you just say like, well, my anxiety is acting up. When you say my anxiety, you're defining yourself as someone who has anxiety. If you say I am a binge eater, I am a stress eater, I am someone who's trying to lose weight, I am this, I am that. When you say that, you identify as that. And even if you don't like that about yourself, you don't like to lose a piece of your identity. And this can be why you self-sabotage when you start getting results, because you're not the person who's in good shape. You're the person who's trying to lose weight. That's who you are. And if I lose it, well, then I'm not that person anymore, and I don't know that person. That's scary. The unknown is always scary. And this is why a lot of people stay in situations in life that they don't like or even hate because it's known. And unfortunately, a crappy life that you don't even like but is known, for many, sounds better than a different life because the unknown is scary and uncomfortable. So to help with stress and anxiety, to help with stress eating, to help with the emotions, to help become the person you want to be, it means unpredictability. It means stepping into that discomfort. It's either make that change or accept staying the same. And I know you don't want that, and I don't want it for you either. All right, I know this video is super long already. I don't even know, like, it's probably forever at this point, but I have more stuff I want to talk about. Again, if you're here, let me know in the comments. If you're still at this point of this video, I would really like to know who are the people who really just dig my content and want to watch it as long as possible. If you do like this video and you're getting value from it, please leave a like to let me know that so I know the type of content you do like. But let's talk about some more stuff here. All right, so you're gonna make some mistakes, right? You're going to backslide a little bit. It's gonna happen, accept that. However, while you should never look back to like beat yourself up or feel bad or guilty about what's happened, that's not going to make anything better. It's usually going to make things worse. It's going to make you probably spiral even more. But you can look back as a way to help. Look back and go, okay, like what could I have done differently? How could I have handled these situations in a different manner? What didn't I do that I should have? Or what did I do that I shouldn't have? What are some strategies I can take? What did Colin tell me to do, but I didn't do, and therefore I made the mistake, right? All these things that you can look back on is a really critical piece of being able to improve and move forward. Remember, your mistakes, your failures, all that stuff, they don't define you. They're just stepping stones. You don't just like start putting in action towards something and get success. It doesn't work that way. It happens because you fail over and over and over and over again, but you get better and better and better. The problem isn't the failures and the mistakes, it's making the exact same ones over and over again and never trying to correct that, right? So keep making improvements from it. And one thing that I really find to be helpful is really just managing expectations. Like expectations of how fast your results should be, of other people. Like, don't expect a lot from other people. People are going to let you down. Not everybody, but you don't have control over other people. You only have control over yourself. And the more you expect from other people, the more you're more likely to be let down and get frustrated and stressed. If you expect nothing but like the support you do get, well, then you're happy with whatever you do get. It's just expectations are the root of all heartache. They really are. If you expect results to be fast, but they're only kind of fast, then you get frustrated even though it's going fine. If you expect everything to go great all the time, as soon as it doesn't, you get frustrated. It's like go in with no expectations other than I'm going to keep putting in the work. Now, of course, there can be other reasons for stress eating, and it usually comes down to unhealthy relationships with food, a lot of over dieting, getting your hormones all messed up. All this stuff can put you in a bad mental place and can contribute to it, and you cause cortisol levels to go up. Cortisol is nicknamed the stress hormone because it elevates in times of stress and has a lot of negative implications on the body, including even a fat loss blunting effect. And while we can take all these strategies to help, there is a product that I recommend all the time to my clients that I find to be the best supplement there is on the market, and that is Core Hard. Yes, I'm an ambassador. Core Nutritionals. I have a discount code, Colin. You can save 20%. If you don't want to take it, that's fine. But I promise I'm just trying to help you. And I've seen so many people, the people who take it that get the most benefit are usually the ones that tend to have kind of a lot of stress and anxiety in their lives. It really seems to help. And the reason it works is because it's a cortisol reducer. And remember, stress isn't just like mental stress, like my job is so stressful or things at home are so stressful. It's also physical, and your body can't differentiate between the two. So if your home life is stressful and your job is stressful, and now you're putting the stress of exercise on your body and you're in a calorie deficit, all this stuff is going to take its toll on the body. And I can't tell you how many people start taking this product and say they feel less stress, less anxiety, mood is better. A lot of people start sleeping better, which will help as well. And it's just a product I found to be so helpful. So if you're looking for some other ways that you can support this could help. All right, so long video, like I said. Thank you for making it to the end. If you do want some more information about how to end the binge restrict cycle, I have a video you can check out up top next that talks about some strategies you can take to get over this cycle. Otherwise, I think you'll like this bottom video instead, and I'll see you over at one of those other videos.